Hello guys, I'm Tom, and today we're going to take a look at what the Blacklight Virus is. One of the most dangerous, disturbing, and fascinating viruses ever imagined is, without a doubt, the Blacklight Virus. Lethal, unsettling, and captivating in equal parts, this infectious agent not only represents an unprecedented biological threat, but also raises a chilling reflection on the limits of human evolution when manipulated artificially. In other words, Blacklight is not just a disease. It's a tool of forced evolution, a catalyst that rewrites the human body from the ground up, pushing it beyond any known biological limits. Introduced in the acclaimed prototype video game series, the virus, also known as the Mercer virus, is the result of dark and ambitious biotechnological experiments carried out by two equally sinister organizations, Blackwatch, a secret military division responsible for covert operations, and the laboratories of Gentek, a scientific corporation with few moral boundaries. Both worked together with a common goal: to create the ultimate biological weapon, one that wouldn't just annihilate their enemies, but had the power to transform human biology, turning the infected into living war machines with superhuman abilities. In this video, we're going to dive deep into the darkest origins of the Blacklight virus, its direct connection to an earlier strain known as Red Light, and the sinister legacy of the Blackwatch project. We'll also explore how these experiments not only unleashed a series of human tragedies, but also led to the birth of the so-called prototypes, modified humans with extraordinary capabilities such as immense strength, accelerated regeneration, and the ability to absorb memories and human forms just by touching them. But to understand the birth of Blacklight, we must first go back to its predecessor, the Red Light strain. It all began with a woman named Elizabeth Green, an apparently ordinary young woman who, without knowing it, became patient zero of a biological nightmare. Years earlier, Green had been infected with a primitive version of the Red Light virus, also known as DX1118A. Through her blood and her surprising ability to adapt to the virus, Gentek scientists found the key to synthesizing a much more refined, aggressive, and devastating variant, Blacklight. Both viruses share a fundamental trait: they are highly contagious and versatile. Transmission can occur in multiple ways, through bodily fluids, bites, open wounds, or even via direct injections. But the most terrifying aspect isn't how they spread, it's what they do once inside the body. They rewrite DNA, rebuild organs, reinforce tissue, and, in the most extreme cases, grant superhuman abilities or trigger monstrous mutations. Project Carnival was Blackwatch's first serious attempt to turn this strain into a functional weapon. The first phase, called Carnival 1, involved infecting chimpanzees in a controlled environment. To the researchers' surprise, the animals not only survived the virus, they exhibited enhanced physical and cognitive abilities. This result fueled the ambitions of those in charge, leading them to take the next step, one far more controversial: human experimentation. This gave birth to Carnival 2. To carry it out, Blackwatch created a fictional town in the state of Idaho, a community called Hope. Under the pretense of a government simulation on how to survive a potential nuclear war, they recruited citizens by offering them money, housing, security, and a fresh start. But it was all a facade. What they were actually building was a large-scale human laboratory. Unbeknownst to them, these people became test subjects for an experimental vaccine that was, in reality, the Red Light virus. For the first year, everything seemed to proceed without incident. But the stability was only temporary. When the true effects of the virus began to manifest, the consequences were catastrophic. Half the population of Hope died in horrific ways, while the other half mutated into violent, deformed beings mentally connected to Elizabeth Green, as if she had developed a form of psychic control over the infected. Faced with impending disaster, Blackwatch activated altruistic protocol, They destroyed the entire town to cover up the biological catastrophe, capturing Elizabeth Green, the virus's primary source, and also her son, who would later be used as a research subject. This brutal event marked a turning point in the history of military biotechnology. Using the genetic material extracted from Green, the brilliant and deeply questionable scientist Dr. Alex Mercer was able to develop the most advanced and dangerous version of the virus, Blacklight. A pathogen capable not only of killing efficiently, but of completely altering the structure of the human being, turning it into something else, something different, hybrid, powerful, and deeply inhuman. When a person comes into contact with the Blacklight virus, they don't just get infected, their entire body is rewritten at the molecular level. This extraordinary pathogen doesn't behave like conventional viruses. Instead of simply destroying cells, it invades them, analyzes them, and rebuilds them. Blacklight awakens latent parts of the human genetic code, especially regions known as junk DNA, sections of genetic material that were long considered useless, but in reality contain dormant evolutionary potential. These regions are manipulated and activated like biological switches, triggering large-scale mutation. From within each cell, the virus reorganizes proteins, alters tissue morphology, and completely reprograms the body's biological functions. It's as if Blacklight rewrites the basic blueprint of the human being, creating something entirely new, stronger, more resilient, and often uncontrollable. Blacklight is not a simple virus. It is structured like a next-generation retrovirus, containing both RNA and a powerful reverse transcriptase enzyme. This allows it to insert its own genetic code into the host's DNA, integrating itself with surgical precision. Unlike HIV, which is also a retrovirus but requires specific conditions to replicate, Blacklight is extremely adaptable. Once it enters the body, its progression is relentless. But this forced evolution comes at a cost. Over 99.99% of those infected suffer catastrophic cellular collapse. Their organs fail, their bodies break down, and the mutation turns into self-destruction. However, in extremely rare cases, certain individuals survive the process, not as humans, but as something completely different. In the prototype universe, these rare survivors are known as prototypes, unique beings completely redesigned by the virus and endowed with abilities that defy the laws of physics and biology. The strains responsible for these mutations, such as DX 1118C or the more advanced DX 120, have demonstrated that the virus doesn't just transform bodies, it transforms minds. Prototypes can alter their physical form at will, turning their limbs into biological weapons like sharp claws, blades, or shields, reinforcing their musculature to withstand extreme impacts, and even regenerating at levels no human could survive. But perhaps their most disturbing ability is biomass absorption. By consuming another living being, they not only gain energy, they also acquire their memories, thoughts, and even their identity. This makes them perfect predators. Invisible, intelligent, unpredictable, and lethal. Gentek, the scientific corporation behind the development of the Blacklight virus, publicly claimed their research was aimed at curing degenerative diseases and cancer. But behind the scenes, their true intentions were far darker. From the beginnings of Project Redlight, their goal was to manipulate the human genome like a sculptor shapes clay. What began as a medical promise quickly turned into a biotechnological aberration with no ethical limits. Dr. Alex Mercer's team, a brilliant geneticist with little faith in humanity, began to suspect the direction of the project when early animal trials resulted in grotesque horrors. Deformed creatures, tissues in constant mutation, bodies unable to die but also incapable of living. Soon, the virus escaped the control of its creators, and that's when Mercer made a drastic decision. Fearing that the virus would be used as a weapon by the government or Blackwatch, the secret military force associated with the project, Mercer released the Blacklight Virus in Manhattan, believing this would prevent it from falling into the wrong hands. But what he triggered was an unprecedented catastrophe. Fortunately, the virus has limitations. It cannot cross large bodies of water, preventing its global spread. However, in densely populated areas like Manhattan, its infection rate is apocalyptic. Entire streets become filled with mutants known as the infected walkers, brawlers, or carriers, each with distinct characteristics. Some retain fragments of humanity. Others have become entirely new beasts, with coordinated attack patterns and surprising adaptive abilities. We could even dedicate a full analysis to these variants, from basic infected to large-scale monsters like the Goliaths or Behemoths. Each one is an extreme example of the virus's evolutionary power, and their behavior reflects both their genetic origin and the environment in which they developed. But the most terrifying thing about Blacklight isn't what it mutates, it's what it creates. During the first game, we're introduced to Alex Mercer as a man seeking justice, a scientist who's been betrayed and now wants to stop the virus from spreading. But as the story unfolds, the truth comes to light. Alex Mercer is dead. The being walking the streets of New York is not the real Mercer, but a creation of the virus, formed from the biomass that absorbed his corpse and shaped with the memories it contained. Alex Mercer is the virus, an entity with the appearance, memory, and emotions of its original host, but with a completely different goal: total evolution. This twist completely changes the narrative. The hero becomes the villain, the victim becomes the cause, and the story becomes a biological tragedy. Throughout Prototype 2, we see Mercer abandon all traces of humanity. He uses the white light compound, a supposed cure for the virus, as a vector to accelerate the infection. By contaminating it with his own blood, he turns what should have been a solution into a catalyst for the spread of Blacklight. His final vision is clear: to create a world united under a single consciousness, a collective organism where every being is an extension of himself. In his mind, this is not destruction, it's salvation. He believes he is guiding humanity to its next evolutionary stage. But in reality, what he offers is an existence without free will, without individuality, under the control of a single absolute mind. This concept makes Alex Mercer one of the most fascinating antagonists in science fiction. He's not a traditional villain driven by power or revenge. He is an idea, a living evolution that no longer sees humans as equals, but as raw material for something better. And so, what began as a story of redemption and survival transforms into an existential tragedy where the true enemy isn't the virus, but the loss of our own identity in the face of a promised perfection. And that has been everything we know so far about the terrifying and fascinating Blacklight Virus, an extraordinary biological entity that defies the laws of evolution and turns its hosts into something more than human. Personally, I find this virus to be one of the most disturbing and complex creations in the world of video games. A massive mutation agent that doesn't just destroy, but reinvents life from the ground up. A kind of Darwinian tool taken to the extreme. But now I want to know what you think. Did you already know the secrets of the Blacklight Virus? Do you believe a mutation this powerful and aggressive could emerge in our real world? And do you think you could resist a forced evolution? Or would you end up as just another mind in Mercer's hive? Leave your answers in the comments, along with your overall opinion about this virus and the events it triggered in the Prototype universe. I'd love to read what you think. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, share it to support the channel, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any of the new videos.